Good morning. Welcome back for another daily devotion. Today we are on day 5 of creation, and we're going to split. I was just reading ahead. Shame on me, but I'm going to split day 6 into 2, simply because the creation of humanity is a creation of such enormity, not just from our perspective, but from the text's perspective. That's going to take its own separate day. So God said, "Let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let the birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the heavens." So God created the great sea creatures and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." And there was evening and there was morning, the 5th day. All right, so we've got this, again, text where stuff is being created. This is where I think it starts to break down with the archaeological or paleontological, for lack of a better way to talk about it, record, right? That birds are incredibly developed species, and flight is irreducibly complex. If you don't master it, you just kind of fall and break your face, right? And we talk about a lot of these biomes, and these creatures, and they live off of both things, or they live off a variety of animals. Here, science would suggest that we have a whole bunch of small animals and birds because they're less complex, but not actually, no, not a whole heck of a lot less complex. And so you would, if you were a theistic evolutionist, you would expect to see dinosaurs popping up on day 5 because birds are there, and of course birds and dinosaurs are the same thing. Not at all. Give me a break. There's only so much looking back into the past and looking at fancy rocks can actually tell you about the way things actually were, and we don't know because we weren't there. And so we're just going to have to leave it, which is dissatisfying. I get that, but that's how that goes. So the text actually says it's all the fish and the birds first, and then God's going to go for the land animals. Why is it in this order? Because back in day 1.5 and day 2, God is busy separating out the ocean and the sea, right? And putting the seas below the sky, and doing all of that work. So it makes sense sequentially in storytelling order that's the order God's going to do the next thing. Again, that's not me saying it didn't happen that way. That's me saying the text is arranged this way because God did it this way to make sense to our brains. If you are a young earth creationist, then you have no problem with this because the birds and the fish only have to survive for one whole day without all the other land animals, and some of them are going to be living living with each other and having each other as mutual partners, as it were. Right, there's little birds that clean the mouths of hippos and crocodiles, right? And that's their niche or however you want to pronounce that. Depends where you went to school, and how pretentiously sciencey you are. Yay with the sciences. So if you're an old Earth, usually things start to break down here. A lot of times, if you're wondering about this, a lot of times old Earth is used for to get you through day 1, right? And maybe some of day 2, but not much. And then by the time you get to day 3, which is a day of adornment, you end up in very strong 24-hour periods very, very quickly, because that just makes sense and the problems just start to enumerate and to multiply and to explode if you don't do it that way. So in some ways, again, from yesterday, bringing a scientific young Earth creationism, of the likes of which Ken Ham is, or a scientific old Earth creationism. There are not a whole bunch of proponents of this. None spring to mind, just off the top of my head. Or a theistic evolutionary approach. This is all approaching the text in bad faith, because that's not what this text is here to do. It's not supposed to tell you about that. It's supposed to tell you how the world started in a non-scientific way, and here's the point, in a non-20th century specific scientific way. That's the thing. It's this hyper analytical, sequential, chronological concerns of an interreliance and interdependency on each other's systems that come with 20th century scientific understanding that the text was never designed by God to deal with. You're approaching it in bad faith. So what is it again today? Today's is, did you make the fish? No. Did you make the birds? No. Are they a gift from God? Absolutely. They were all delicious. Oh, okay. I had to have a chat with one of my children who thinks that you don't eat birds of prey, right? That we don't do the hawks or the eagles. That's not good eating. Also, you don't eat puffins. They turn out to just taste fishy, which for poultry is nasty. There you go. I know. Deep concerns for all of you. What do puffins taste like? Gross. The answer is gross. There it is. So what do you do with this devotion? How do you approach this text in good faith? Today and tomorrow are going to be stewardship days because we're going to see the stewardship angle here on the next day, right? But here, are we doing the right things? Are we doing the right things by the fish? Are we doing the right things by the birds of the air, knowing that we can have dominion over them, and that's appropriate? I'll talk about this more, but the dominion over the earth comes before the fall. There's a way humans can shape the earth and have dominion over the earth that is sinless, that is guiltless, that is innocent. With that said, we're looking at you, Dow Chemical. Not today. I'm not going to get into that today, but in days past, could it have been conceivable that certain chemical companies located on the Saginaw River might have been dumping, I don't know, other things into the river and then into Lake Huron? Yeah. I don't remember it because I was not alive, but many of you will remember when certain rivers caught on fire, certain sections of Great Lakes caught on fire. Yeah. There's the stewardship stuff I'm talking about. Here locally, just in the what are we doing sort of thing, right? We have this grand concern about the fish in the Columbia, right? And are the dams doing good things or bad things? Do the fish ladders actually work? Are we doing the right things by the fish? It's important, and not just because of the Native American fishing rights, but because that whole system of watershed depends on those fish, right? And so if you saw in the news now, they're going to start shooting the sea lions and the the harbor seals around the dams, right? And it's somebody from the state, and if you're a Native American, you can get a permit. So none of y'all go out there and start shooting them yourself. You'll get in trouble. Right? But that's one of those important stewardship things. Are we doing the right things? And now it looks like it's time to kill some sea lions to kind of, take back a little bit of the fish. Prayer-wise and devotion-wise, today and tomorrow are going to be stewardship days. How are we stewarding our food? And the pandemic has kind of pushed on this because we've had food shortages, right? Where's all the flour? Where's all the yeast? And why? And part of it is, looking to God and praying through the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread, right? Or our daily coho, if you live here, right? But there is room and time to have that conversation and to have some time to let God run your food supply, right? We're now back into, when I was in Michigan, this was the start of expensive gas back in 2007, 2008. And church was kitty corner from a gas station. And we would see the gas truck pull up, and one of the people there knew the manager of the gas station part and would call over and ask the new gas price. And then everybody on staff would take a 10-minute break and drive their car over and get gas at the old price, or would wait until the gas truck came and the prices were changed and then drive over and get gas at a better price. So we could avoid the worst price, right? Humans do that, impulse buying. buying on the spur of the moment and panic buying. So there's some time to, if you were involved in that, to for your toilet paper, your yeast, or your whatever, to have some time for repentance. There's also some time to have that as something that we let God take care of, that God's promised us daily bread, and we can, in fact, go and get those things. I do remember going to the grocery store during the pandemic. I do remember huge holes in the grocery store. But, I could still get the basic necessities and could work my meals around what was there. So that's today is a response back on the Lord's Prayer, on give us this day our daily bread, and some time to journal and to think about how we felt about our food stewardship and our stewardship in general. If you want to do just regular stewardship, that's fine too. We'll be back here tomorrow, and we'll have another daily devotion.